The Championship relegation battle could not get any tighter as we head into the final game week of this season, with Stoke City, Derby County, Preston North End and Luton Town all occupying those places outside of the relegation zone, but all within a point of each other. Hull City sit just within the relegation zone, just 1 point behind Luton Town, Preston and Derby, 2 points behind Stoke City. Now Plymouth Argyle face a massively outside chance of securing themselves survival, so I would recommend perfecting them to be gone. Now obviously when we look at this league table that you will potentially see on screen right now, you've got obviously Stoke City on 50 points after 45 games in 18th place. You've got Derby County on 49 after 45, as well as Preston North End and Luton Town. You've then got Hull City on 48 after 45 games and Plymouth Argyle on 46. Now obviously for Plymouth Argyle to survive, it would mean that Luton Town stay where they are and they lose by what? I think it would have to be a 14 goal swing for that to go in their favour. But that would obviously then mean that Hull City have had to lose as well. So will we see that happening? It is highly unlikely. Now if we take a look at this week's fixtures to get a full view on what is going to be happening, Bristol City face up against Preston North End. Derby County and Stoke go head to head. Portsmouth face Hull City and Luton Town face up against West Bromwich Albion. Now obviously if we take just a brief look into Bristol City versus Preston North End, we're going to see how this one is going to transpire. Now obviously you look at Bristol City in the league table, they currently sit 5th place in the division on 67 points. Now they've lost back-to-back games and they're in a position where they really need to pick up a victory heading into this final game of the season, as the likes of Millwall, Blackburn Rovers and Middlesbrough are all breathing down their neck to potentially get into those playoff positions. Now obviously they'd need Coventry City to win, they'd need Millwall to win in order for them to slip out of the playoff positions. But if we look down at Preston North End, they are 4 defeats in a row with just 1 draw in that time period. Now I had a look at the recent form of the team since John Eustace came in at Derby County 13 games ago, and Preston North End sit rock bottom of the table. I think it's 6 or 9 points in their last 13 games, which is absolutely terrible. And in my opinion, they will be lucky to survive. I think Hull City will pick up a victory. I think Luton Town have a good opportunity as well. And if only one team below matches Derby Stoke, if only one team below sort of losers, then obviously Derby County and Stoke stay and Preston North End would fall to the drop zone if Hull City and Luton pick up obviously a victory. It's going to be a very, very interesting final day, especially looking at this one. Now the head-to-head of the two sides falls in Preston North End's favour. It's 10 wins for Preston North End, 10 draws for both and 5 wins for Bristol City. But if we go back to November of 2024, Bristol City took a 3-1 victory against Preston North End, of which Hirakawa, Wells and Max Bird all picked up goals in what was a complete smash and grab by Bristol City in all accounts. Only 5 shots, 3 on target, all 3 went in the back of the net, and they were managed by current manager Paul Heckingbottom, with Liam Manning obviously taking charge of Bristol City. But who is going to come out on top in this game? If I want to predict it, I'm going to say that Bristol City will take the victory. I'm not going to guess score, but I'd probably, if I was going to, guess 2-0. So I've just completely lied to you, and I'm going to guess the scores anyway. So I'm going to say 2-0 for Bristol City. You can let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Now on to probably the game in the season, which is a little bit of a dead rubber, realistically. Now, for Derby County or Stoke to go down, realistically, 3 teams below them have to better their result. And now, for Stoke City, for both Stoke and Derby, they could lose and stay in the division. And that is what is so good about the Championship, right? Derby County head into this one off the back of back-to-back wins. The first time they've won back-to-back away games since League One last season. A 3-1 victory against West Brom, a 1-0 victory over Hull City. Stoke City are on the back of back-to-back defeats. 6-0 to Leeds, 2-0 to Sheffield United. And obviously there's some injury worries for both sides. But the important fact of the matter is that both teams need at least 3 teams below to do better than them in order for them to get relegated. And that's why I think this is a little bit of a dead rubber, because unless there's an early goal in this game, whether it be Derby or Stoke or whatever, unless there's an early goal, I think this game will probably run out as a 0-0 draw. Unless there's obviously a reason for one of the teams to sort of have to push it, which would probably be more likely to be Derby County, given that they're a point below. Now, it would obviously mean that Hull are winning, it would mean that Luton are winning, and it would mean that Preston are winning. That is the only way that Derby County could get relegated or Stoke could get relegated. Now, as we look into this one, the head-to-head of the two sides is quite interesting. 4 wins for Stoke, 5 wins for Derby, 3 draws apiece. Now, if we go back to November, Stoke City beat Derby 2-1 at the Bet365 with a cannon pen and Gibson scoring in the 82nd minute. A Johansson own goal gave Derby County a faint bit of light, but if I remember rightly, this game was very, very poor and Derby County weren't very good at all. And obviously it falls on to that Paul Warne style of play. But obviously, as we look ahead to this one, we obviously look at the league table. I can see this ending as a 0-0 draw because I can't see all 3 teams below. And I think if you look at Mark Robbins, if you look at John Eustace, I think it's better for them to end the season at both on a draw than it is to go absolutely guns to the wall and for them to relegate each other, essentially. Because if Derby County pick up 3 points and relegate Stoke when a draw would be necessary, it's just that conversation that comes about, doesn't it? And that is one of the reasons why everyone plays at 12:30 now on the final day, or everyone plays at the same time, because you can't have those sort of situations where a team goes into a game knowing all they need is a point to survive, and neither team has to go for it, really. And I do think that Derby County will play for the victory, if I'm completely honest, but we know Derby County across this season under John Eustace that our idea of going for a victory isn't going balls to the wall and chucking 12 men up front. Obviously, I know it's only an 11-man game, but we don't do that. We never have done. John Eustace has never chucked balls to the wall for Derby County, and I do believe that we will try and win in our way, set pieces, nice bits of play. That's what we'll try and do. Kane Wilson, I think, will be massively influential this weekend, but ultimately, I think if we get to the 75th, 80th minute and other games elsewhere are sort of going our way and we only need to draw and both teams will stay up, I think it will stay like that. I think that we'll see Derby County and Stoke sort of play around a bit, because I'm not saying that that's the right thing to do. I'm not saying that it should happen, but I'm going to predict for this game, I'm going to predict a 1-1, if I'm completely honest. I think Derby County will score first and we'll get late on in the game and we'll know that a draw is enough, and then Stoke City will find themselves coming back into it for them to stay in the division, but we'll have to see what happens. It's obviously going to be a massively important fixture. Now, Hull City head to Fratton Park to face up against Portsmouth, and both of these sides are sort of in very different positions. Now, Portsmouth have been safe, I think, for the last 2 games, and I think, if I remember rightly, in their previous game, I think they made about 6 or 7 changes to their lineup to give some players like Blair an opportunity, and some of the players who haven't really played a great deal this season the opportunity to get some game time. Now, do I think that they're going to play sort of an average side this weekend? I think there is potential for them to put out probably their weakest team. Now, the conversation really has to be heading into this one. Will John Mousinho want to end this season on a loss? I personally don't believe so. And that's why I believe that out of the teams in this sort of battle down at the bottom, the team I think that will probably go down, I think, is going to be Preston North End, because I can see this game between Pompey and Hull City ending as a draw, which would put them on 49 points. Now, and then I can see, obviously, Preston North End losing, I think I said 2-0, which would put, goal difference wise, it would put Preston North End below Hull City by 1 goal. Now, obviously, if we look at the recent form of both Pompey and Hull City, Pompey have won 2, drew 2 and lost 1 in their previous 5. Hull City have lost 3, drew 1 and won 1, and that win came against Preston North End. Now, obviously, if we look at the head-to-head, it's 3 wins apiece and 1 draw down the middle. If we go back to November, it was a 1-1 draw between the two sides. Hull City's Pedro scoring early doors, with Murphy scoring for Pompey. But we know that it's going to be a completely different game to that, because obviously Pompey are now safe. Hull City are battling for that survival. I personally, and if you're a Portsmouth fan, correct me down in the comments, I can't see the Pompey manager, John Mousinho, allowing his team to go out on a loss. I can't see him allowing whatever team he puts out. I think it'll be a team that he believes can get something out of the game, because ending a season on a loss then sets you into the off season on a defeat, which is obviously on a negative, and they've already survived, so they won't get that success feeling of, oh my God, we've lost but we've stayed up, oh my God, get in there sort of thing. Whereas I think they need sort of a point on the final day to sort of go into that off season and refresh in a positive mindset. That's also one of the reasons why I can't see Stoke or Derby wanting to lose this weekend. So it's going to be interesting to see how that one does develop over the course of the weekend. Obviously, there is a possibility that nothing changes on the league table. Everybody picks up a draw and everything stays the same. And in my opinion, that would be the worst case scenario for me. I'd love Derby. Realistically, I want Derby County to pick up the victory, because I want it to be an easy 3-0 victory where we don't have to think or look at other scores because we've done our job. And I want it to be an early goal, one before half time, one after, case closed, job done, send on the kids and go from there. Now, I don't think that's going to happen at all, but that's what I'd like to see down the bottom. But for Hull City and Pompey, what am I expecting from this? If I'm completely honest, I think it's going to be a draw. I'm going to go 2-2 because I do think there'll be goals in this game. I can't see Pompey going out without scoring, if I'm completely honest. So I'm going to go 2-2. You can obviously let me know your predictions down in the comments. Now, the final game of this relegation scrap is Luton Town and West Bromwich Albion. Now, Luton Town will be without Liam Welsh, who picked up, obviously, that red card. I don't believe they've appealed it, which I was quite surprised about, really. Obviously, I could be wrong, and you can correct me down in the comments if they have appealed it and it's been successful, but I do believe that he is out for this game. Now, if we look at the table, West Brom have nothing to play for apart from pride. They've won 1 game in 5. Luton Town have everything to play for. Survival in the division. They don't want back-to-back relegations on their CVs. And they're 3 wins on the trot. A win against Derby, a win against Bristol City, and a win against Coventry City. And are they going to want to go out on a whimper, go out on a defeat, which could see them fall into League One? Personally, I do not believe so. Now, I do think Luton win this game, if I'm completely honest. I think it's going to be a 1-1. And a 1-1? A 1-0, sorry. I just think that Luton have found a way in recent games to just pick up results. The victory against Derby, obviously I was there. There was a full match vlog on my channel if you want to check that out. But we dominated them after they scored their goal pretty much. We were all over them. It wasn't a great performance from Derby at all. And our finishing was atrocious. But they weren't great. And they got the result. Then against Bristol City, 3-1 victory. That's a massive win against a playoff contender. Now, I had earlier, when I did my predictions for this season, I had Luton Town finishing, I think it was second. It might have been in the playoffs. But I had them going straight back up. And I'm really surprised by how they've got on this season. And I do think they'll get themselves out of it. Now, you look at the head-to-head, and it doesn't actually spell that well for Luton Town. 5 wins for West Brom, 2 draws, and only 1 win for Luton. So you look at it and you go, are they actually going to be able to pick something up here? And you go back to the previous game, which I believe Rob Edwards was still in charge, and it was a 1-1 draw. Chong scoring in the 60th minute, Maja in the 45th. Now, this is a completely different West Brom side to that side that they faced that day. Under a completely different manager, a lot has changed. Now, they haven't been great of West Brom. 3 defeats in their last 5. Against Derby, one of Luton Town's relegation contenders. A draw against Cardiff, one of their other relegation contenders. So, are West Brom really going to be fighting for this? Fighting for points? I don't think so. I personally think if Luton Town score early, I think the game's a wrap. And that then opens up the conversation of what's going to happen with Stoke, what's going to happen with Derby, what's going to happen with Preston, what's going to happen with Hull. But if I'm completely honest, I'm going 1-0 Luton Town. I think they'll take the victory. And I think if I do that correctly, that would put Luton Town ahead of Derby County and Stoke. It would put Hull City staying in the drop zone. No, it'd have Preston North End falling into the drop zone and Hull City finishing in 21st. It would be Derby in 20th, Stoke in 19th, and Luton Town in 18th. Now, you can obviously let me know your thoughts down in the comments. If you have not done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell to stay tuned for all of your latest Derby County content. This Championship relegation battle is not getting any easier. Is my heart going to be able to take it on Saturday? You'll find out when the vlog drops. Let me know your thoughts down below, and I'll catch you in the next one.